There's nothing like the scent of fresh basil. Come with me and see how I harvest this bunch of basil, cleaned out the tower, and gave you a few tips and tricks on what's going to go in there next. I'm Sherry, and this is Tower Gardening Made Easy. It's time to turn over this tower. There's just a little bit of lettuce that's still on here, but honestly, it's not worth keeping. It's old, it's getting a little bit bitter, and it's time to turn it over. I've got some fresh lettuce that's going to go into this tower in a minute. But first, what we need to do is we need to harvest all of this basil. We don't want this to go to waste. It has not bolted yet, which means it hasn't gone to seed. So let's not waste it. Basil is amazing. You can put it into oils. You can cook with it. You can even dry it. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and band it, and I'm going to dry it in a different room, obviously not in the grow room because it's too humid here. But I don't want it to go to waste. So let's get going, clip this top, and preserve it. Before we begin the harvest, I want to show you a tool that I use that comes with this kit. You can go on to the Tower Gardening Made Easy website, and this is the seedling kit. But it's not just this, it's the tools that they give you for free. I did not know that they were included, but they are. But these are the two tools. It's like a pokey thing, and it has a little fork. These two things are essential if you're a tower gardener. It's very easy to lift up to see if you've got roots. And then this one helps you get the net pot out of the tower. And it makes it so easy to harvest this large area very quickly. I don't recommend using scissors in your net pot because it's kind of dangerous because they do kind of, the end is sharp. And I definitely don't recommend using a knife. You'll break the net pot, also stab your finger. So use these plastic tools. They are safe. I have tried the other two and have failed. So don't hurt yourself. I don't know that if Verizon sells these on their own. I don't think that they do. But if you buy just one kit, you're going to get a couple of these. So I highly recommend it. So let's go ahead and harvest the basil. I always love it when I'm about to get on camera and all of a sudden all the towers turn on. It's like a rainforest in here, but that's okay. Hopefully you can hear me just fine. So we're going to go ahead and begin to harvest the basil with our safe plastic tool. I will say one little caveat here. When you have something that's on your tower, and again, I'm now modified my towers where I'm only using 5 sections and then putting the lights. I'm just keeping them on the smaller side and turning them over more frequently. And for right now, I'm just not going to be using the baby green section. I don't like things growing over the lights. And that's where the basil is. It's hiding the light component where it has the dial where tells you how many hours it's on and off. And the reason for that is the top of those lights get very, very warm. And it can actually start to heat whatever you're trying to grow up there. So it's important to either harvest it or trim it back because it really isn't good for the lights. And if you've looked on the Tower Garden website, the lights are very expensive to replace. So let's get this out of here. All right. I love the smell of basil. It just reminds me of homemade pizza or sauce. And as you can see, this kind of came out in a nice big clump. So what I like to do is I like to trim the bottom, get all the roots off. And again, please, try to recycle your net pots. Don't throw them out. Now, these roots are pretty condensed, so sometimes you got to dig your nail in there to get it out. But a nice little wiggle, little gentle bang, and then a good soak. You definitely want to clean the net pot. You never ever want to just stick it back in the tower and go again, just because there might be some root rot. There might be something going on in here. So it's just good to wash it with just a little bit of soap and water or just warm water. It's just fine. You could throw a little bit of hydrogen peroxide, something of that nature, but we'll clean this up later. So now I just have the stems. I like to tip it upside down and then go ahead and give it a nice rough cut. And, ooh, these stems are tough. They've been in here for a little bit. So then I like to just kind of peel off some of the bottom that's, brown. Doesn't look very edible. sure that if you dry it, it's not really going to matter, but I'm just going to try to just keep the stem portion kind of like a bouquet of flowers, because I am going to go ahead and tie them. Just going to pick up the fragrance. The other, good thing about this is that this is a companion flower. So if you're growing basil outside, be sure to put this around some of your other vegetables, because it will ward off certain pests. So inside, you don't really have that unless you bring it into your grow room, like I did last year. Somehow in the summertime, got completely annihilated with aphids. So that was unpleasant, but I learned a lot from that. The companion plants definitely helped, but inevitably, when I disappeared at the end of the winter, taking a break, it really was the only way to get rid of the aphids. The chemical, I shouldn't say chemical, the organic spray that I used, and I'm tying this. It helped, but I got one tower that was, clean, and right back to where it should be, and then inevitably they jump to another. So the only way 100% to start over is to take all your towers apart, clean them, sterilize them, and let them sit for a little bit. And what's a little bit? They say 2 weeks. When the aphids don't have a food source, they will die off, and that's what happened. But I decided it was the holidays, and I wanted to spend some time with my family, and just completely take a break. So that's kind of where it happened. And then I decided to put some seedlings back into the nursery and get going, and really, really work on the channel. So I'm going to go ahead and just give this another little tie, and little tight, so that it doesn't fall off when it shrinks down and dries. Give it a nice little, with the twine, um, garden twine. This is another essential that you guys need for so many reasons. So we got our first bouquet. I'm gonna leave, and I'm not gonna trim these tails. I'm gonna leave them like that for a second. So let's take our plastic tool, not the scissors. And if I had to guess, from the top of the light to the tallest part of the basil, it's a good 6 to 7 inches. And, it's just not good to cover the lights. They need to breathe. It's hot in the room as it is, so you don't want to burn out the light. So let's go ahead and do the next one. There we go. And we'll straight up trying to get all the roots. But I will say that if you look at the roots, there's no root rot, which is very impressive for the amount of time that this has been in here. Sometimes when it gets a little bit older, a little in the center, but that's okay. I don't, some people put hydrogen peroxide in their water religiously on a weekly basis or a couple weeks. I don't do that, because I really just, have um, I want to turn the towers over. I want to clean. I want to make sure that there's no mold in the top where the water shower cap is. I discovered that a little bit last year, that when you don't, and your room is really warm like mine, I vent it every day, you're going to get root rot, and you're also going to get mold, and powdery mildew is another thing that you're going to get. So I will say that these stems are pretty intense. They're thick. You can almost use gardening shears to trim them off. So this bouquet is nice and big, and I got some of the things that are a little yucky on the bottom. I'll probably take some of this upstairs as fresh, put it in the fridge for a little bit. But the rest of it, I think I'm just going to dry, package it, and save it. All right, so we got another piece of twine. I think my scissors are getting a little dull. Time for a new pair. Time to go to Michael's, one of my favorite craft stores. I could walk around Michael's for days. For days. There's so many things that you can find there to do things, whether you're an artist, craft person, or even in your grow room. If you look back at one of my videos, I made a trellis out of just I think it was floral rings and those white clips, and it worked. That was where the original watermelon was. So here we go. Here's our second bouquet, and I'm going to leave those ties. And I'm going to swivel the tower now to get the last two. So you're going to want to stay tuned this week because I have something really special coming up for you guys. I can say that there's a box upstairs, and I've got someone coming on Monday, and it's going to be really fun. And I'm glad to do it. It seems to be a trend now on YouTube, and I can say that Tower Gardening Made Easy is going to be the very first tower garden channel to do this. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned. And if you haven't subscribed, you should do so because you're going to be able to witness something that's pretty remarkable. And I'm really excited. Okay, so this one's even taller. Shame on me for letting it go. But we're going to turn this over. I planted some lettuce the other day. I didn't put basil because I just have so much now. But as you can see, the roots is pretty big. And just a little bit of root rot on the bottom. That's okay though. It all, for the most part, looks really, really healthy. And that's all I care about. We'll wash those up in a little bit. We're going to cut off the root, layer down. Got a few pieces that could be clipped off. And then just gather that a little bit to pull some of these leaves. But this one actually looks pretty healthy. You know, the other thing too, like with tomatoes, if you've got a tower that's, you know, that's going and it's a little bit older and you can see on the inside that there's no algae and you want to just keep that going just for a little bit longer, even though I don't recommend it, all you got to do is water change. So if you have an extra pump, which I have always strongly advised getting one, keeping it in the box or somewhere in your grow room, because if your pump dies, you don't have a way of really keeping things alive other than pouring water every few hours on the top of the shower cap, which is not sustainable because eventually you're going to have to go to bed. So that's another video I'll be doing soon. There's a product out there that I discovered that will eliminate if there's a storm and you lost power. I don't know if you guys have watched the news recently, but being in Rhode Island, we got over 37 inches of snow in one storm. It's the biggest on record, and it literally isolated this town where they didn't have the equipment to actually remove it. Luckily, we did not lose power, but in my head, I said to myself, what if? What if I lose power? I'm going to have to come down here and I'm going to have to hand scoop water every few hours and dump it under the lights into the shower cap. And I just go, well, what happens when I go to sleep? But, you know, it's one of those things. I didn't worry about tomorrow. I was just kind of in the moment. Let's see what happens. And thank God we did not lose power. But I did get online and go, what do I do? And I found this product. So I'm waiting for it to show up from Amazon. And I'm going to share it with you because I know that it's not just snowstorms. There are other people in the South, like Florida and the southern states down there, that lose power. And in the summertime out west, you've got, you know, those rolling outages. And this particular product, all you do is charge it. And it's pretty impressive. So it's definitely a safeguard, just like having an extra pump on hand, because you don't know when it's going to happen. So if you have as many towers as I do, having that backup pump means saving the entire tower. And it could mean my tomato tower, which, you know, those are, you know, hard to keep going. And I don't want to lose it, but you could. So I'm a safety girl. All right, we got one more to go. Let me swivel it this way. And a water change is actually really easy. You just take that pump and the white hose that it comes with, you know, the tower, and you reverse it and you just pump it out into outside, or, you know, if you're outside, you just dump the whole thing, fill it back up, throw some nutrients, and then you're good to go. And then just keep an eye on the inside, because like I'm looking at this one right now, and I mean, it's a little dirty, but there's no algae. So all I got to do really is just kind of wipe it out and look at the bottom, do the water change, And you'll see that in a minute. That's the importance of turning your towers over. If you let them go for too long, they get nasty. And then that's when you really need to take them apart and put them through the dishwasher with the citric acid. But I might do that. And I actually have extra parts in the other room. And actually, I've got parts right there on my sofa to make it easier. So I can take these, throw them in to the dishwasher, and then just clean it out and then just go ahead and rebuild. So, I also, there's a video that's pretty popular right now about finding an old tower or, pre-loved tower. And the purpose of that is buy it because it has all the spare parts so that you have extra pieces. You have an extra pump. You have extra shower cap. There's all kinds of stuff. So you may not set it up, but you may just use it for parts. And that's what I've done in the other room. I've got a whole stack of components, baby green sections, pumps. I'm ready to go, like a MacGyver if I need to. So this is a really tall basil plant, just so everybody can see. And this actually did not have too much root rot. So that's pretty good. But stems, my goodness. Got a little elbow grease trying to cut this thing. All right, so let's lay her down. I'm actually just going to clip that top. You know what? Before I do that, you know what? This top part, right at the very, very top, I don't know if you guys can see that, it's ready to bolt. So I caught this just in time. I don't really have desire to let it go and get seeds because these seeds come with the tower garden. I'm actually going to pull that one out because it might be bitter. There's basil in that beginning pack. But, I've seen so much right now on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, that vertical gardening, tower gardening, or hydroponic gardening is becoming so popular. Food is so expensive, guys. I can't tell you. And living here in Newport, it's really, really expensive. If you were to buy a pre-made salad from a, like kind of a gourmet type store, and right now we're off season, so they really don't do it. But when we are in season, I'm talking just a little bit of lettuce. If you're lucky, a couple slices of cucumber, maybe a half a tomato or a couple cherry tomatoes. And if you're lucky, they'll sprinkle some, cheese in there. The salad, I bought one last summer. It was $15. And it wasn't really enough for two people. So that's why, tower gardening and really being in charge of your own produce is so important, because then you can take that extra money from not buying produce in a grocery store and put it to something else, like, I don't know, maybe natural gas. I got our bill for the gym the other day and I couldn't believe what's going on in Massachusetts. It's kind of sad, to be honest with you. They are charging gas and their supply is as much. So, Rhode Island isn't as bad, but it's getting there. All right, so I'm just going to take a peek in the tower. Not to get off topic, but I did. Okay, that actually looks pretty good. There's no algae. It doesn't look like there's any mold. It just looks like it's a little bit dirty. But we've got 4 great bouquets here. And so the next part is just to kind of take this apart, give it a good clean. And then we're going to take the lettuce that's in the nursery. It's popped up with just a little bit of roots. But we know that with the nutrients, when you're putting in fresh baby greens, into a tower, that you just want to keep the EC at 1.0, and you want to keep your pH at about 5.5 to 6. I like to kind of keep everything at 6. That seems to be the happy number for everything. If you can do that, then you're going to be very, very successful with growing with whatever you want to grow in these towers, that the towers will let you. So let's go ahead and clean this and get it back up and running. And growing some more lettuce. Okay, so we got that tower all cleaned out. We got the basil all tied up. Let's quickly put this together. But one little thing that I want to share with you guys, when you're putting in your basic greens into a clean tower, you don't necessarily need to add your nutrients right away. Some people do water filters. Depending on where you are in the world, that might be necessary. But where I am, there actually is some nutrients in the water, so I have my trusty meaty here. And when I do my seedlings, I just grow them with regular tap water, no filtration, nothing. So I just, leave them be. And when they're ready to go in the tower for at least the first 24 hours, I don't really add anything other than just testing and adjusting the pH, which I just did with one capful of the pH down. But I just want to show you guys some things. So my tap water has an EC. Well, it's not going to let me do that. Has an EC instead of being 1.0, it's 0.5. So it's about half of where it needs to be. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave it alone, and I'm going to adjust the nutrients in 24 to 48 hours once they've established in the tower with the running water. And then I'll bump it up to 1.0 for greens. They don't really need a whole lot of nutrients, other like squash or zucchini, watermelon, cucumbers, tomato, they all want just a little bit more. But for lettuce, you really don't need to put a whole lot because it grows quickly. You're going to harvest it quickly and you're going to turn that tower over. The one thing that you need to do is adjust the pH. They really don't like high pH. And if you're having the browning or discoloration of the leaves, it's because the pH probably is too high or the nutrients. And you can go ahead and watch my video on how to adjust the nutrients. But honestly, if it's too high, you can take some water out and add some water, and that will instantly bring it down. But then remember to adjust your pH because that probably brought it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and put this tower back together. It's very, very simple because I keep my tower short. And you just saw me kind of quickly clean it out. And I just like I said, just fill this, tub back up. So just a little toss this guy in here. I love with the new towers, they have a plug um, divot in the bottom port. Now, one thing that I always do is I make sure that the divot where the cord goes is straight across. So 180 degrees as to where the opening is, because I line up my lights that way. That way, when I need to adjust the nutrients or the pH, I'm away from the cord and I don't need to turn it. I made my mistakes early on, but I've never made that before. So cord on one side, port on the other, and the light switch, that little round thing where you adjust your lights, is right above the port. So let's go ahead and build this real fast. So we all know we need our sticks, and it's so easy, guys. It's so easy to build one of these. I can probably at this point, because I've done it so many times, do it in my sleep. Your first rod goes onto A. If you have larger hands, you're probably going to want to do this at a slant, but I'm little, so I can do it from a distance, but maybe not. So A, yes, that's A. You might get a little wet if the water is already in here, which it is, but that's just part of, being a hydroponic system. If you don't like to get a little dirty, this isn't for you. I don't mind it because the reward is I get my own vegetables. And as you can see in the past couple of videos, I've really fine-tuned things and am really growing exactly what I want and the size that I want, that the towers will allow. And I really don't have to buy produce very often. I grow everything that I like right here in my basement. Um, and it's really quite easy. Once you find the formula that works for you, which is having an established nursery where your seedlings are, um, and um, having your towers and keeping them short, keeping them on the shorter side, because it's just, you got 20 ports. I'm going to show you. I don't really need to build it sky high, because not only does it put the extra pressure on the pump to pump the water, even though I've got the high powered pumps in here that most of the new towers come with, but it's just easier to turn these guys over. You know, when you've got the baby green section, I'm not saying don't use it. You know, if that's what you want to do and you've only got one tower, then yeah, go ahead and do that. But I just find that I can grow bigger heads of lettuce um, on a single tower if I space them out. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. Let me just build this real fast. The one thing that I wish Tower Garden would do, and if they're watching or listening to this video, is the inside letters, the A and the B. It's really, really hard to see. I wish that they would make them a little bit deeper or a different color, which I know over time that would probably fade. I'm asking a lot, but it's really hard to line them up. So as you can see, I use my fingers. So when I'm ready for the A or the B, I line up my fingers and then I take the rod and then I just go ahead and bring it down. And then of course you just want to adjust it to make sure that it's exactly where it needs to be. That was B, A. Okay, so ready for B, line it up. Oops. That B? That is B. So I need A. So again, it's hard to see them. But as a system goes, there are a lot of grow systems out there. And I have to say that not just because I'm an affiliate of Tower Garden, this is pretty impressive. I really do like their components. It's very easy to build. They're sturdy and they clean up really well when put citric acid in the dishwasher. And then you put the shower cap. Now, the shower cap does not have letters. You just have to kind of line it up to the divot. And then you just got to do your best to go ahead and find where the rod goes. And get the first one. And then you just turn. There we go. And the other thing, when I build them shorter, I don't have to get on a ladder. And I really encourage it. You're going to get a lot of food with just this. Trust me, you really, really are. You don't need to build them sky high. I see people, there's one particular person on TikTok, I think he's on YouTube too, that builds these massive, massive towers. They're so tall. I don't understand how the pump goes all the way to the top. He must have issues with getting the pump to pump the water so high, unless he's got two. He's got some system that's a little bit different, but he is using the Tower Gardens. He is using the components where they, I think this nut is stripped. It's weird. There we go. Where the water's at the base. So he's using a pump, but he's adjusting his mineral and nutrients from an off-site. So it's being pumped to each tower. It's a farm, basically. I wouldn't call myself a farm yet, although I think my husband wants to, because I think there's some type of tax write-off he can get. But it is a fun hobby. And then we've got our little nut ports, so let's just click them in. Hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks for sharing your day with me. And as I said before, you really want to stay tuned this week. Got something really special coming up. And the other thing too that we're going to be doing is the watermelon is ready to be trellised. So that will be its own video where we do that. I found this really cool netting. I just need to get that going because right now it's vining almost onto the floor and onto the sofa. The other thing I like about this system is they're all on dollies. I mean, they are an extra that you have to put together and buy, but I wouldn't have it any other way because it would make it very difficult to do the water changes or the clean out. I just roll it right into the other room. I hook up an extra pump in a tube and I drain it right into the sink that's out there in my extra half bath that I have down here. So without that, it would be really, really hard to do this. But I guess if you had a window, you could always drain out that too. I mean, you just really have to think outside the box when it comes to doing this many towers in a basement that's finished. So this was a clean out. And then I love these little silver colors. You can find them on the website too under the nursery essentials. So that's it. Let's put the lights back on. You saw how fast that went up, right? I'm looking at the thing. It was less than 10 minutes. All right, the lights that I'm putting on this guy are the older set, and they come apart. I'm not a big fan, but they do work, and they're not too old. And remember what I said about this. I line it up. I'm just going to move the cord. Where the timer is right in front of that port for lots of reasons. You can see it. You can change it. See how it comes apart? Ugh, I hate these. This was the old lights. So if you've watched my video about finding a tower, and it's actually pretty popular on YouTube right now, secondhand, like on Facebook at Marketplace, you have to ask how old the tower was, because these lights, they change them so that they're 1 unit versus 2. So when you adjust these lights, you have to hold the top, and you'll know. The other thing too is the cord. This is a flat cord. So if you were to go and meet someone on the marketplace and they have a flat cord, that means you're buying the older lights. The newer lights, the cord in the back is round. You will not have this issue. Now, again, does it work? Yes. But they're just older, and maybe someday I'll replace them. But for right now, there's no need to, because they do work. I will say too, this coil on the top, they changed that as well so that it's stiffer, because I constantly have to adjust this one. And so that's basically it. I got my lights. I'm going to go ahead and plug them into the wall so that they're on. I'll have to adjust the timer. I don't know. I'm sure you guys know how to do that. And I keep the timer on 1. I'll adjust the time when I know what time it is. Actually, it's 11. So I can go ahead and just bring that to 11. I keep my lights on from 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. So that's plenty of time. And then I'm just going to kind of push her back a little bit. So let me go get that plate of seedlings. All right. Move this. I thought when I bought this little round table it would be big enough, but inevitably I'm always running out of space. So I'm using the stools with a towel. All right. All right, so back to our little tools. Remember we talked about the tools earlier? This is the little plastic tool. This is how I get them out of that biosun. But you know what? I'm going to drain off some of this water because it's kind of wishy-washy and I don't want to get soaked. So in a tower like this, there's 20 ports. I like to kind of do every other one. 10 heads of lettuce. Believe it or not, once it's full grown, is a lot of lettuce. When you use that method, cut and come again, where you're not taking from the center, you're taking from the outs and underneath, and you just let it grow, you'll have plenty. So there's no need to plant the whole thing out. I am going to put the cover on that in case one falls in. If we have it. Ah, there it is. You always want to keep the port covered so that things don't fall in your water, because that will change your nutrients and your pH. But I did, I think, a red and a Boston bib lettuce. So I'm just going to pop these in every other. And we're missing the grow port. Grab one. Pop that in. And I'm just going to randomly kind of pass them in there, because when you give them space and not crowd, you're going to inevitably let them get bigger. Okay. And that way you can just keep them going for a while. So I won't be turning this tower over for, where is this? March 1st, March 1st tomorrow, April, May, probably the end of May, somewhere in that range. I'll clean it out. This past week, I've done a couple of towers. I did 2 this week and I did 2 last week. So we're good. I'm good for a while. Stick one down here. And I like to, so I don't have to drag the towers out like with the squash. Kind of keep them in the front if you can. If you can't, that's fine. What do we got back here? Anything? Stick one back there. I got two. Guys, if you're a beginner, this is the easiest thing to grow. You've heard me talk about in past videos of different phases, and lettuce and baby greens are basically they're phase one. They're so easy, but people will they'll say like in Facebook groups, and sometimes I have time to answer, and I feel bad. I wish I had more time to do that. Um, but I just don't, because there are a lot of people that get into this and they have lots and lots of questions, but they're beginner questions. So that's when it's important that you just do some research I'll go ahead and put this one here, um, in YouTube, and utilize these videos because it really does give you your essentials. It is a beginner thing, but they'll put like two seeds into a net pot into the tower and then expect it to grow. There is a process. There is a process, and process one is growing them in your seedling, covered under a grow light on top of a warming mat. Some people have success outside with the rock wall, but inevitably they'll come up and it's just a teeny tiny little shoot. You don't want that. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your rock wall, which if you watch that video, it's about 20 cents per cube, depending on which one you're using. You're wasting money. You're also wasting on nutrients and pH, electricity, water. This is supposed to give you food for your family and not make you feel like a failure. So follow the process. Plant in your nurseries under grow lights on a warming mat until you have at least a little bit of root. Put them into your towers, turn your towers over, and you will be successful. Watch more of my videos. I've been doing this for just over a year now, and I really feel like I've got a good grasp on how to never shop in a grocery store. I will shop at farm stands because those are local. Unfortunately, it is off season, so I am my grow stand. So this is it. This is what feeds my husband and me and a lot of my neighbors. I do bring up some stuff to my gym and give away to friends. Like, I mean, look how much basil that I harvested. I mean, this is just lovely. And this is way more than I need. So I'm going to dry it and put it into a pretty pouch with a ribbon and give it to some friends. So, and it was a packet of seeds that I had, I think that came with one of the towers that's just been sitting over in my nursery. So I said, let's grow some basil. And it smells so good. So follow me for more tips and tricks here at Tower Gardening Made Easy. I'm Sherry. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm going to say this one more time. Stay tuned to this week because I have something really exciting for this channel. Um, no other channel has done it. I'm a little nervous, to be honest with you. You're really going to see not only what's going on here, but whenever you want. And you're going to see how I actually live the lifestyle. Okay. Not just putting, rock wall into a tower and letting something grow. How I eat this, how I harvest it, everything. And it's going to be on your time, not mine. Thanks for joining me. I'm Sherry. This is Tower Gardening Made Easy, and I look forward to seeing you soon.